What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of A Girl's Podcast, hosted by your host, Jasmine Rule. That's me. I'm back again with a new topic to talk about. Currently, very hot topic right now in Sweden, which is the collapse of the Swedish government. Can I say that, or is that exaggerating? I think I can say that. I think I read that. Anyway, so obviously I live in Sweden. That's kind of a bit what my channel's about sometimes. So I do like to keep up with the Swedish news, although I find it quite misleading or not very representative, or I feel like they skip over lots of things. I also haven't really found a site that I feel like really gives you all the news that I would like. Anyway, so lots of people on, I guess, American websites or whatever have been asking about what's going on in Sweden, because it's kind of a bit of a surprise, really. I mean, it was a surprise to me to find out that the current Prime Minister has been ousted from Parliament. So this guy, Stefan Löfven, he don't really have much of an opinion on him, really. I've only listened to him talk a few times during the coronavirus, and I thought the whole thing was a little bit pathetic, really. Him talking away, and he doesn't have any control over the situation or anything, so why should we be listening to him? I don't know. But anyway, now he's been ousted from the government because they did a vote, a no confidence vote, and enough people voted, so he was gotten rid of, basically. So the thing about Sweden, as a lot of people know who don't like Sweden, is that Sweden is more of a socialist state. It's, the base of Sweden is really making sure that everybody can get by in life. That's kind of what it is, making sure people have, good mental health and are chugging along, can have kids, can, do the sort of classic things in life that you want to do. But instead of having to, struggle and work 3 different jobs, that you should be able to work one job, get by, and if you don't have, a work, you should still be supported, and so that everybody has a place in society. Anyway, well, did I just do a whole spiel about why socialism is good? Whew, let's calm down there, Jasmine. Anyway, so the current political party, which the Prime Minister is part of, they don't have, or they didn't have a strong majority. So the government is made up of different parties working together, right? Which makes it, I guess, easier to get rid of the Prime Minister. Now, I don't have all of the information about the different number of seats and what the percentages are made up of and everything, so I could be saying things that aren't correct, right? But I have an image, a basic build of what's going on, so I'm going to try and use that for this podcast. Anyway, so my understanding is that in Sweden there is tight rental controls on the housing market, and this has been going on for quite some time, the mid 1900s. So a really, really long time. And this is something that is, I would say, reasonably popular, because the alternative, or like the perceived alternative, is that if there aren't rental controls, then basically capitalism comes in, and landlords, they are getting in, and it's just a money grab, and you know, people get richer, and then the people who are renting out, they get poorer, and they, live in not so great conditions, because if the housing market is dictated just by people who want money, then they're not good. The people who own these buildings, they're not going to be wanting to put money in to make sure that the places are nice. They're just going to want more and more money, right? So, that sort of fear of that, I think, drives the want to continue to have some sort of rental control, and sort of makes people not necessarily open to rental control reforms, right? Now, where I stand on this is I'm a little bit uncertain. I'm not sure, what the best way forward would be. But I do think that the rental controls can be really helpful, because I don't think that you can rely on people to do good. I don't think that you can rely on landlords to be nice people and to make sure that they do all the stuff that they're going to do, right? So the reason why the government might want to do reforms on this is that there is a housing crisis in Stockholm, where there's not enough apartments for everybody. People aren't getting into the places that they need to be, they're not getting places to live, and that there's, a long queue to get, reasonably priced housing. We're talking decades, right? Now, I was going to mention, okay, this is where we come to the other political party, which is on the right side of the spectrum, which is the Sweden Democrats, and they are talked about as the anti-immigration party, right? They brought forward this vote of no confidence, I guess, and obviously a lot of people agreed with that. I mean, a lot of sitting parliamentary members agreed with that, so that's how they got rid of Stefan Löfven. Now, the thing about the Sweden Democrats is that they have grown in popularity quite a bit, so much over the past few years. I mean, and whether or not you agree with their politics or whatever, if we're talking about a housing crisis, and Sweden has taken in way more asylum seekers than any other European country, except for Germany, I think. I think Germany might have taken in per capita more. I'm not sure about the numbers. But anyway, one of the top ones there, then who caused the housing crisis, right? If you're, letting so many people in, and you don't, and there's not enough houses for them, then taking away the system that you had before is punishing the people, because you were bringing in all these other people, right? So I think the Sweden Democrats have gained popularity because it's everyday Swedish people are possibly going to be facing higher rents, possibly unlivable prices of rents, because of what, Stefan Löfven has done, instead of creating a system where maybe they built houses for all the asylum seekers, or like, why dismantle this whole system that Sweden has enjoyed because of what this government has done, right? So I think Sweden Democrats have gained a lot of popularity because they're sort of like asking these questions, and whether or not you agree with them, I think like it's proven in the polls that people are sort of, agreeing with them. Like they're wondering what the hell this government is doing. So what does this mean for the future? The thing is that the Sweden Democrats, like the right-wing party, are really unpopular with all the other parties. And you can understand why, right? Like, I'm not going to vote for the Sweden Democrats because, like, to me, it's like, well, they're just a bunch of racists, right? And so if you're like these other parties that are centre or centre-left, or maybe even like centre, but just a little bit centre-right, you're not necessarily going to want to be connected to the Sweden Democrats. So then you have this sort of like stalemate, because the standing government right now, which is called the Social Democrats, which kind of gets a little bit confusing, they don't have enough majority to push through their ideas and things like that. And then the other left parties that are kind of like their friends, they don't want to, work with them to put through these plans of reform, because that goes against like the everyday working person, right? So it's basically like this stalemate, and it also means, I think what it means is that the Sweden Democrats could gain even more popularity, because although I wouldn't vote for the Sweden Democrats because I'm like, like the pretty racist, and like I don't vote for that. If they are pushing an agenda that is kind of more socialist than like the left wing, or like the center left in certain areas like housing and things like that, then people who are directly being affected by possible rental increases, they might decide to sort of overlook the more questionable things like anti-immigration, or they might even warm up to the idea that like we shouldn't let people who aren't Swedish into the country. Like I think that because of the stalemate and the way that the ruling government has let people down, is gonna sort of push people to really warm up to this other party that a few years ago nobody would vote for because it was so like neo-Nazi, right? Then now all of a sudden like they're not looking so bad. So that's pretty much what is happening from my point of view. I actually have no idea what's going to happen in the future in regards to this, because I know sort of what my co-workers think and feel about the situation, but I work with like sort of, blue collar workers. So I understand like their perspective, but I don't necessarily know like what white collar workers are thinking about this whole situation, right? And I don't want to like expose anyone or anything, so I'm not going to talk too much about that, but just like, there's a growing dislike of the sort of ruling parties right now, and even the left, because they seem to not be respecting the ideals of leftist politics, which is what the people have voted for. Yeah, so it's really interesting. I think it's also quite scary because there can be, it's kind of scary either way, right? Like allowing the removal of rental controls, that's scary, for young people who are trying to find somewhere to live, for blue collar workers who don't earn enough to afford, uncontrolled rent in a massive, like super popular high-tech city. Like there's so many people who work in like IT who are earning so much more. Like pretty scary for them, in the same way that like a right-wing party is scary. Not in the same way, but like the fear of that and the fear of that, it's like you're maybe picking between two evils, basically. Well, yeah. Anyway, so that's, I guess, how I see it. So we'll see how things unfold. I think that there will be like no, I have no idea. But, things have already happened, so it's just kind of like wait and see. Whew. Yeah. Anyway, I have to drop this because I keep going to like give ideas about like what could happen, but I know that I have no idea, so there's no point in me even. But anyway, if you are Swedish and you know more about like the political situation, it'd be really cool if you left a comment down below, or if you like linked some really good articles, because I've been trying to find some good articles about it, but they've all been like behind like a paywall, so it's been really annoying. But yeah, let us all know, and we will be really appreciative of it. I am so glad that you joined me for this episode of A Girls Podcast, and I will hopefully see you on the next one. Hey do!